Everybody can listen to me munch on my snacks as we talk about gaining weight.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the world's okayest mountain bike podcast. Kyle and I are currently sitting here waiting for Ryan to get his headphones, and we are talking about the woes of how the weight is slow to come off and extremely fast to come back on.
Dad bod stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's way more real with the second kid. You didn't have a choice. You just got hit out of the gate. But I maintained a fairly decent physique for the first one, man. But the second one, things change though.
Oof.
I think
that was one of our the Dad Life Fitness. Paul Reagan asked about that. Paul, there is no real Dad Life Fitness. It's when you get a chance to do some exercise and you pray you're not so dead tired that you can go take advantage of it. Although I have found, of course, till I broke my wheel, which we'll get into, that if I can just make myself go to bed and fall asleep before 10 o'clock, I can get up super early and go exercise at like 6 a.m.
Can you really?
Get it done. Yeah. I mean, you got to force yourself to do it a couple times, but after that, it just kind of becomes a habit. So now I wake up. I mean, my kids wake us up before 6 or at 6 at the latest every morning anyway. So what's the difference?
Man, so we've got some other challenges with the kiddo, but when we've been going to bed, Laura and I have been in bed before 9 o'clock for almost like months now. And when it's time for me to wake up in the morning, I feel like death anytime before 7 o'clock.
Oof.
Like seven is survivable, but man, anything before 7, I just feel awful.
Ryan, did you get your headphones?
Yeah, but it's not on my iPad, so I sent you a link to another profile.
Do you have you want me to add another you?
Yeah.
Is it I'm not on my phone. Is it your email address or?
What are you doing now? Just can you plug your headphones into your iPad?
No, because it's got this weird jack on the iPad.
Thank you, Apple, and your stupid dongles.
Hang on, I can fix that.
There he is. All right, we're ready to roll.
Is that audio better?
Yeah, I think so.
All
right, everybody. Welcome to the world's okayest mountain bike podcast. As always, give us a like on Facebook. Email us at okayestmtb@gmail.com. We're going to get right into it because we actually have a lot of listener questions because we were struggling for an idea for our next episode. So I put it out on our Facebook page. What do you want to talk about? And we got quite a few responses. Of course, before we get into those, we do have something to talk about because I have more bike drama yet again.
Oh, Klint, the drama llama.
I have exploded another Bontrager line carbon rim. Of course, the first one I blew up at the Trials Training Center just outside of Chattanooga. I was sending a road gap that really did not have a landing. It used to have a landing. What remained of what used to be the landing was just a bunch of rock slabs sticking up in different directions. But there was a crowd, and nobody else was doing it, and I was feeling really froggy that day. So that's how I blew up the first one. But this one, I was just riding mineshaft at Shepherd, and there's a corner. It's kind of the first right-hand berm. It's about halfway down, and you can kind of do like a step down into it if you want. It's a little bit of a high-speed drop down into it, but it seems relatively smooth, and I did it, and I just heard a psh, and that was it. So,
Clinton, walk us through the position on the trail, though, because like I'm trying to picture in my head where this happened at, and I'm having a hard time picturing it.
Okay. On mineshaft, do you know where the little log drop jump is? almost dead center, almost right in the middle of the run.
Log drop.
So you come down, you do all the upper chutes, you do the real deep chute that goes under the fallen tree. It's like the big ditch.
Yep.
You kind of come out of that. You make sort of a slight right over a roller into a left-hand berm. It shoots you out into a really off-camber section where we used to bail out of the trail before it was finished. Then you make a 180-degree, almost right-hand kind of flat turn, and then you pop off a little log drop into a left-hand berm, and then you kind of weave and go down the hill, and this is where it starts to get pretty steep and rough. And then there's kind of a rock drop that is rollable, but it's really steep. But if you hit it with some speed and get off the brakes, you kind of jump down into a big right-hand berm. And then after that berm is where you have the option to go inside and completely drop off the rock into the next berm, or you can kind of make like a steep, it's like a flat left into a steep roll down to the berm. I don't know how else to describe it. I do. I do
you
know
did
how
a
to describe
phenomenal job describing that. I don't think I've had that many laps on mine shaft. I think most of the time I've spent down there has been on Cannonball and Powder Keg.
Well, if anyone really wants to know, I know for sure that the video Jagged Axe put out on YouTube that has Trail Builder Taylor, it's like mine shaft. It's like the official mine shaft video. At 1 minute and 50 seconds in that video is the exact spot where this happened. So Taylor, the Trail Builder, kind of jumps down into it, and that's exactly where it happened when I landed.
What's the minute mark? I'm gonna look it up right now.
1 minute 50.
Okay.
So anyway, while you're looking that up, I exploded my wheel. I was running an airliner. I was running a Maxxis Dissector 2.4 in downhill casing. I think I had 27 PSI is what I started the day with, and I don't think it lost any. So I guess with 2.4 tires, I'm going to have to run like 28, 29 PSI and an insert. But it also could be that I just caught the rim, like the outside of the rim on the rock. I don't think it was necessarily that it impacted through my tire and my insert to crush the carbon. I don't really know for sure.
Sometimes it's just the right angle on those wheels, and I don't know. Sometimes it just happens.
Well, so we're not sure what Trek's going to do with the warranty because they already warranted one of these completely. I was told worst case scenario, X number of dollar price for the whole wheel. Because Trek will probably do a wheel and not just a rim. But
did you talk to our boy John Smith?
Yes, I did. We walked through a lot of options, but we kind of were waiting to see what Trek does because, I might end up with an extra hub. And if I do that, then what I'd like to do is buy a rim and some spokes and have it laced up to have an extra wheel. And then maybe even buy a matching front wheel with that rim, just to have a Shepherd Mtn wheel set and a nice carbon trail wheel set that I can actually put some lighter tires on and go enjoy actually pedally rides without having to lug, 16 and a half 100 gram in tires and inserts around.
Right, and have a proper Shepherd Mtn smasher set.
Exactly. So if anybody wants to be our wheel sponsor, totally open to that. If anybody's got a takeoff set of I don't need anything fancy, like DT Swiss E1900s or EX 1700s. Those are kind of like the workhorse. They come on a lot of enduro bikes, like OEM. They're not.
You'd be good with a Stans Flow EX2. You could do that. That's a good.
Yeah, the Flow. It's actually I was looking those up. The Flow EX3 rim is supposed to be pretty strong.
Yeah.
I just want strong. I mean, I'd even go for a set of DT Swiss like the FR5 whatever, like the free ride super heavy rims for my rear wheel. I'll take them.
Yeah. Just to make sure you can finish a day. I mean, especially when you're racing too. I mean, like having a lightweight wheel set don't do you any good if if you don't make it down the hill.
Exactly. Speaking of Shepherd Mountain, I always say, like, I don't mean for this to be the Shepherd Mountain podcast, but I have to say, so last week they started working on the new shuttle road, and they have the new route completely cut in. And I think on the road that it was before, it was about 1.3 miles or so to the top, about the same as the Green Trail, maybe a little shorter. Now it's like 0.8 of a mile. And it's literally, and they're actually going to, the plan is to put gravel all the way up the thing, especially in the bumpy spots that they just couldn't do anything about. But even as is right now, it is literally half the time. Before, it would take a minimum of 15 minutes, and we did it in 8 minutes when I showed up.
That's
Sunday
awesome.
afternoon.
So
Yeah,
here's a question I have, and here's a question I have, and I don't know if our listeners care or not. It sounds like to me, so it's obviously they're putting some time and money back into this trail system pretty quickly. I mean, we're what, 60 days, only 60 days from opening at this point. Does the city of Ironton and all of Arcadia Valley see this as being the success that we all feel that it is? I mean, are they trying to figure out how they can do more of this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They definitely love how it's gone over, but they want to make it better and make it even more popular and get more people down there. I mean, that's the goal. They didn't do it to do us riders any favors, really. You know, they did it to promote their local economy, their tourism economy, which is a huge part of it down there. So
right.
they're happy with it, but they're not satisfied. We'll put it that way. Nobody seems disappointed, but they're not content with it just being, how it is. We actually have a meeting. This will come out the day of the meeting, Tuesday. We're working on the whole proposal for the next phase to get some cross-country trails, maybe get another green trail on the downhill part, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But,
awesome.
Yeah, man. So things are moving right along there. I guess we'll see what I do about the wheel. I won't really know until, Trek gets back to us maybe tomorrow. So any other news from the Brown Krangle front before we move on to our listener questions?
I'm just desperate for Ryan to get back on two wheels again.
It'll be soon.
How soon, Ryan?
Actually, I've been thinking about that a lot the last couple days because it's feeling really good. Maybe a month. So
you think so? You're still a full month from getting out like on Lost Valley or something?
I don't know. Maybe a little sooner than that, Lost Valley. I mean, let's say the end of June. Maybe something like Lost Valley or any Camp Creek.
I almost invited you out.
Come off the ground.
What's that?
What about the pump track if you don't come off the ground?
No, quite honestly, there's two things that frighten me right now, and it's one, the pump track, and two, Shepherd Mountain with my arm situation. So
yeah.
So we're not going to be able to get you to sign up for the Red Bull qualifier race.
No, luckily for all the listeners, I will not be signed up for that race. So you guys will finish one place better.
Oh,
so you think? I'm actually gonna try to do well for that because Clinton, me and you were both signed up for the Red Bull Pump Track World Championship qualifier, aren't we?
Yeah, we had to. It's only $20.
Yeah, no,
honestly,
I'm excited.
Kyle, you're the only person I care about that I'm trying to beat. If you get last and I get next to last, I'll be happy.
Oh man, I don't think I'll get last. I don't know. I'm not.
You're not gonna get last. There's no way.
I'm actually gonna put a little bit of work into it though, because like that is a place that I can access and get laps on fairly regularly because I can take my 4-year-old with me. And that's the biggest thing about me mountain biking and doing any kind of real racing is that it's hard for me to get time to bail out of the family and skip like a family day to go get a training ride in. It's just been hard to do. So
Yeah,
the pump track, I can get up there 3 days a week with a 4-year-old and get laps in. So I don't know if I'll actually get that many days a week up there, but I'm going to go up there at least once a week and put in some like proper, let's see how fast we can go and start picking lines and kind of start playing with it a little bit and see if I can't be even slightly competitive.
Yeah. Well, you'll definitely have the home field advantage on that one. I guess I'm gonna have to hit the gym, so whenever I go to pump my bike, the force is unbelievable.
the force. Oh
I'm
my
sure I
gosh.
can make huge gains in a month and a half.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
But
No,
that's
maybe
honestly that's why I've been
maybe
getting
end of
up
the month.
early and riding, because before I broke my wheel, I would have been down there this morning. I've been getting down to Shepherd at like 7 a.m, doing a lap, go to Farmington, take a shower, go to work.
That's awesome.
Just because that way when work's over, I can go home and actually, be a decent father and husband, not
Right.
get off work and be like, okay, honey, going riding, see ya.
No, that's me, man. Like I got to get on the email at like 7:30 for work, and so like for me, really to get a ride in, I'd have to be at a trailhead at 5:30 to get back in time to get started with work, and I can't do that, man. Like that means leaving my house at 5 to find a trailhead.
Yeah. And unfortunately for you, the pump track, you can't just go ride it. Like,
Right.
it's not open at 5 a.m. That's a
Well,
real bummer.
But again, though, like we said, is I can do that. That's an after work thing. I can take the 4-year-old with me, give the wife a break from the 4-year-old, which she desperately needs every single day, and go out there and just go ham. Now, I have to say this because it's one of my favorite trails. I had an absolutely awesome ride at Matson this weekend. So, and it was
I'm
really,
jealous.
really, it was extra fun for me too because as everybody knows, I bought another dirt bike, been riding motorcycles. I'm a horrendous dirt bike rider. Like, Clinton can probably attest. We've ridden a little bit. Ryan, I actually haven't ridden with Ryan yet, and he probably doesn't understand how horrible I am at this. But if John
I've
and
heard
Ben,
stories.
they'll
Enough
know
heckling.
because I'm glad it's funny because if it wasn't funny, they wouldn't invite me out. I'll say that much. So anyway, but it was really fun though because I got to take Ben, an old high school buddy of mine that I'm riding dirt bikes with, a really, really strong dirt bike rider. I got to take him out to Matson. And granted, I had to shove him on a single speed to ride with us, but we had just an absolutely great day of riding. Like Matson was so much fun. I do want to talk about something though. I don't want to get too sidetracked while I'm on the topic. Matson Hill is getting built, and it was some really neat stuff right now. It's way better than I thought it was going to be.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear.
Interesting.
Because yeah, Matson's honestly, Matson is my favorite trail in St. Louis area. So I'm excited, and I don't count Shepherd, and I haven't been to Shepherd yet, but yeah, it's my favorite, so I'm excited to hear that.
It's certainly my favorite in St. Charles County. I still love getting on Chubb or Zombie Bluffview. Like those are just great trails. But so what they're building at Matson is something that St. Louis still does not have, and it'll be a first for the area as a whole. And it looks incredible. We definitely didn't ride it. We definitely hiked up there and checked it out.
Wink, wink.
And saw that there was definitely a very nice 15-foot tabletop, 15 to 20-foot tabletop built that definitely floated very well on my feet as I hiked over it. And then a bunch of really deep cut berms that you can just absolutely stick and rail. It was we only hiked a couple portions of it. A lot of it's all very raw and just cut in, but it's not traditional gork work. And I say that with the most wholesome heart I can, because the gork elves are incredible, but they've got the gork wizards working out there now. And it's not just bench cut single track, it's machine built, and it's looking really proper. Lots of rock work. And it's not going to be anything technical, so it's going to be totally different than what Shepherd offers, which I think is good. But the anticipation and like the expectation that I had for what that was going to be, being a man-made gork trail, not professional built, which is what we were projected to do originally, I was a little bit disappointed to hear that they weren't going to be hiring a pro company. But I got to hand it to the guys out there. It's Mitch and Mark and Greg Ott have been out there, and for guys who haven't ridden a ton of that stuff, it's looking awesome, and I'm so pumped to have that out here, and I absolutely cannot wait for that to be open and running.
That's super cool. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Kudos to those guys. Cause I was kind of in the same boat as you, Kyle. Like, man, they're not going to hire a pro company to do this. Like, how good can it be? And that's awesome to hear. Like, I can't wait to get tires on it. Really, to be honest with you, my favorite trail.
I might actually have to venture back north to ride.
Oh, you'll like it. And here's the thing. Listen, more trails. So like volunteer built, whatever. But the anticipation was that I throughout the project that St. Charles County was working on it, we were interviewing and trail walking multiple companies. There was 4 large, well-known trail building companies came to St. Louis specifically to scout that trail, do trail walks, put together bids and proposals. They were legit companies, companies that have built stuff that you've ridden in other parts of the Midwest and even like the greater country. And so things that you've seen on TV. So it was really exciting to have people like that out there looking to build the trail. And that's what my expectation was for that trail. So when it moved away from having Cam's Inc. on property to build stuff, I lost, not to say interest, but I was disappointed that wasn't going to work out because of COVID and everything that happened last year. But I completely retract whatever I've said before. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be Shepherd. It's not going to be steep technical, but they're making really good use of the elevation that's there, going from probably the highest peak in Matson Park to the lowest point at Matson Park. And so I didn't measure it, so I have no idea what the elevation is, but it's going to be a good jaunt down. I can't wait.
It's awesome.
Sweet. Well, that sounds fun to me. Like, I wouldn't mind coming up there and riding with some folks. I've kind of been spoiled the last, since spring started, because everybody wants to come down where I ride, which is a nice change. Oh, speaking of last Shepherd thing, so there's actually an event that's going to be happening August 21st and 22nd. It's called the Iron Spokes Bikes and Beer Festival. And it's going to have like a gravel race. We're calling it a Funduro, or I say Matt Johnson he's the race promoter. And it's going to be a 4-stage enduro with shuttles, apparently. But it's going to be trolley track, Element 26, Mineshaft, and Scorched Earth. So kind of the 4 mellowest trails on the mountain. So as not to kill anyone, which I should be stoked. But on the other hand, I'm like, trolley track and Element 26, there's going to be some lung busting, leg burning going on if you want to do well on those stages. Because I don't know where they're going to end it, because those two, they come off of one another and then they merge back together. So that would cut off a little bit if they ended them, before the intersection. But even at that, that's a long. My best times are both well over 4 minutes. My element time's not that great. It's like almost 5 minutes, but that's going, pretty hard. And I was definitely huffing and puffing, gasping for air, going that hard. So that's some long enduro stage for Missouri. But that'll be fun, getting shuttled up and.
I'm in. That sounds like a race I want to do.
Those stages are much more rideable for the majority of people compared to Cannonball and Powder Keg and No Man's Land. So it'll be definitely, if you gave up your spot for the BME because you were worried about either the physical part or just getting down Cannonball or whatever, well, here's your chance to do an enduro at Shepherd, but on a little more average Joe friendly trails.
No, that sounds awesome. I'm totally in. I'm definitely going to do that.
All right, boys. Well, let's get into our first listener question, which actually came from someone who I did a podcast with for this. Ken Avery of Vittoria Tires actually posted, and he wants to know what downcountry is. So I have about 3 different working definitions of downcountry myself.
I kind of just thought downcountry existed in the land of make-believe.
That's one of my definitions. It's trail riding. It's a trail bike.
Right?
A downcountry bike is a trail bike. Or maybe maybe a downcountry bike is you want a trail bike you want to ride with your buddies trail riding, but you want to beat them to the top more than you want to beat them to the bottom. Maybe that's where you get a downcountry bike.
I think so.
I don't know. I think down country is like, well, I think the country part comes from cross country, so it's almost like a little shorter travel, but still able to beefier. Maybe it's beefier, like a frame and some sturdier wheels to go more downhill.
You know what I think?
I mean,
what I really think is it's for someone who they're really they want to do cross country rides and maybe racing. They only have one bike and they don't want to be in the gnarly cross country geometry.
Right.
Like, I think that's really what it's about, is like a very efficient bike that won't kill you going downhill. I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it seems like to me, bike manufacturers use it. Like, you guys know me. I'm a Trek fanboy through and through, just because that's the way things go. But like, I think Trek used that term when they re-released the Top Fuel, which classically for the past 20 years, the term Top Fuel is what they used for their fastest cross-country, dedicated cross-country race rocket. Well, they developed a newer, tighter geometry, even steeper, even lighter, even more nimble, more efficient super caliber, and then they gave the Top Fuel a more modern trail bike geometry, but kept it at like 100 and 110 travel, I think is what they did. And I think they called it a downcountry bike, and that bothered the crap out of me. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Trek didn't come up with that term. One of the Pink Bike guys did, Mike Levy, I think.
But maybe it was reviewing the new Top Fuel where the first place I read it was in terms of the new Top Fuel, which was, I mean, really a cross country bike just with a longer top tube and a little bit slacker head tube than what they normally have.
Kyle, I can just picture the Trek U guy that does all the Trek U courses saying, "And welcome to the new Trek Top Fuel, the perfect downcountry bike."
Right. Yeah, exactly.
He's good. I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying, you know.
So I do have a question though on downcountry. So a friend of mine, my friend Crystal, who lives up in Michigan, recently got into cycling. She's a long-time cyclist, as in like she's always had bikes and ridden, mostly road, gravel, stuff like that, but like not been an avid cyclist. Like she rode bikes, but not like avidly. And recently got into mountain biking. I mean, went full bore. Like we got her first mountain bike about 2 years ago. Then I found a good group of girls she rides with, and now she's got a full suspension bike, looking at knee pads and a full face helmet and the whole 9 yards. So she registered for her first ever enduro race and sent me a screenshot of it. And then the enduro race is called Downcountry Enduro. And I was so confused because I guess that just means like segmented cross country trails in which you have to climb and descend and like expect 14-minute trail segments. I have no idea.
So I feel it's like stage cross-country racing.
Yeah, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's
I feel like that's like if I go buy a T-shirt, what size is it? It's a small, medium, large.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, that sounds like a fun race because
it's like you want to do cross-country trails and race, but you want to do sprint stages, but there's climbing involved in them. That makes and descending all in one stage, like half and half. I could see that being a discipline.
When you want to race cross country, but don't have the fitness.
I'd say you'd need the fitness to sprint.
Well, you do, but nobody's sprinting for 14 minutes.
Right. I suppose.
A good question from Ken, huh?
Okay, so this actually was a question I had for you more than Klint anyways. Not necessarily because Klint didn't have this experience, but I think you got it more. So as a dad and as a kid that like has when you have kids that have potential, you know what I mean? Like my 4-year-old Connor. So my 4-year-old Connor is an exceptional bike rider.
Amazing,
and he's all around skilled physically, hand-eye coordination. I mean, he keeps up with most 8 and 10-year-olds as far as like hand-eye coordination and like physical stuff. Like as far as aside from like full speed and power, his agility and like the way he responds to stuff is absolutely unreal. So
absolutely, yeah.
Now with that said, I have a lot of fun riding with him. He has a lot of fun riding. He wants to ride his bike all day, every single day. He wakes up, rides his Strider bike around the living room, It's before the sun's even up. He's got shoes on and a helmet on, wanting to go ride bikes. And so we let him. He just goes pedals around the cul-de-sac we live at the bottom of. The challenge that I run into is I don't want him to be tired and done with riding bicycles by the time he's 8 or 10. And so the reason why I wanted to ask you is that I feel like you started riding moto early, right? Well, how old were you when you started riding moto? 8?
Well, yeah, no, I was riding. I mean, I was riding by myself at 3 years old on a dirt bike.
Were you really?
Yeah, I mean, and even back in the early 80s, I'm showing my age there. You could ride like all the different places. There wasn't any rules about riding 2 up, and my dad would just put me on his gas tank. So I mean, at 2 years old, man, I had a helmet and boots, and I ripped around on my dad's gas tank. And I mean, Child Protective Services would probably, come take my dad away now. But I mean, we ripped around pretty good. And then at 3, I started riding. And we rode every weekend. I mean, and I had a big enough yard as a kid that I even rode around on weeknights, after, preschool or my parents got home from work in the yard. So I was a lot like Connor on a dirt bike and a bicycle. Like I lived on 2 wheels. I didn't start racing till I was like 9 or 10. I did a few, I did one race on my 50 and then a race on a 60, but didn't really seriously race until 10 or 11.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I understand your fear in it, but I think he just loves it so much that I don't think he's going to burn out in it. As long as you don't put pressure on him to hey, we got to go race. And I think that's where I've seen a lot of the kids, the fun get taken away is where their parents actually put pressure on them to go compete and to win, whether it's BMX or moto or now mountain biking's getting so big for kids. And that's one thing I never did not want to ride 2 wheels, because my dad never pressured me. It was we did it for fun. We did it together too. My dad never sat on the sidelines and just yelled and screamed and told me how to ride. We just went and rode and had fun, whether it was bicycles or dirt bikes. And so I never really hit burnout. Maybe I did a couple years as I was well into my 20s, and I was tired of getting hurt.
But at that point, though, the burnout was on your own side, not like you turned 14 and were like, okay, Dad, I'm done riding bikes. You know what I mean? You pushed yourself to the point where you needed a break.
Yeah, my body just needed a break, and it wasn't. And trust me, I took about 4 or 5 years off, and I still missed the hell out of it. But I wasn't ready to start getting hurt again, which ironically has happened. But yeah, that's a great question kind of for our listeners is because we're seeing so many of these Groms and these kids come up and starting a mountain bike. And I mean, even when I started mountain biking back in 2013 or 14, when I really started getting in the sport, there was no kids out riding really. And there's so many of them riding now. I think that's just a parent.
And that's
parent
and
approach,
that's kind of the thing is that I've seen. So I mean, I was never. I mean, I never had the chance to ride bikes as much as I wanted to as a kid. I rode bikes as a kid. I always wanted to race BMX. I never had a chance to. My folks didn't have the money to get me a race bike. Didn't have didn't have the money to sign up and do the racing and travel and do all the thing. So I played parish league ball sports. That was my thing. And my dad did. My dad was a soccer guy. I played baseball, played soccer, and so I just did what he did.
Sure.
And so with Connor, the other worry that I have is the things that me and Connor get to do. I mean, we ride dirt bikes, we ride bicycles, we ride jet skis, we go wakeboarding, we go wake surfing, we go rock climbing.
Yep.
All of the adventure and all the fun, this kid is experiencing it by age before he's age 5. He's not even in kindergarten yet.
Yep.
And he's already done and seen more stuff than I did by the time I was 18.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my worry is at what point does it not be exciting and he just get bored of living the life that we do? And then how do you keep him interested in it? I want him to do his own thing. And listen, if he becomes if he decides that soccer is his thing or baseball or basketball or anything like that, is his thing and that's what he's going to do, I'm totally good with that. But I don't want to burn him out on my side and have him miss, cycling is a lifelong hobby. I mean, regardless if you're racing enduro, doing anything, just riding bikes with your buddies. I mean, that's never not fun, from here until age 70.
Man, I mean, I get to spend a lot of time around your kid, and I don't see that happening. For one, I just see how much he loves to be on two wheels. Like he doesn't stop till you're like, dude, it's time to go to bed, you know. So I don't see that happening, and I also don't see you being the type that would push him to compete or excel. And I think that's where kids really hit the burnout. And Clinton can back me up on this with moto kids. It's like it's two things. It's and then I might let me finish this, Clinton, because I want to hear your input. But like the sideline dad versus the active dad. Like I think that's so important, and you're that active dad. And then two, I think it's just like if he never wants to compete at any of it, like that's no big deal, right? Like you're not trying to live vicariously through your kid and win world championships. Like I mean, shoot, I'd cry on the podium if my kid did, but if all he ever wanted to do was go out to the local trail and ride around with me, like that's the greatest thing ever. And you just we see kids fail. So many kids hit burnout in moto at a very young age, in probably other sports. Yeah, and you see it in other sports like soccer or baseball. Like by the time a kid gets to high school or like gets done with high school, he's getting these college scholarship offers, but he's like, I'm tired of playing soccer. I played it, 4 nights a week for the first 18 years of my life. I don't want to play anymore. Like, and we saw it with the moto kids too. And part of it was like their parents just pushing them so hard. And I can see it. A lot of parents are like, man, we just spend so much money invested in this. Like, we got to get something out of them. Like, what you're getting out of it is the joy, and that's where it needs to be. If they want to take it further, that's up to them,
So you see, and Clinton, so yes, I'm going to recap just like, and Clinton, you can confirm. So you see more the burnout on the kid side is in result of competitive pressure more so than access to it as often as he wants it.
100%.
Yeah, I think so. I think parents don't, I'm actually on top of my other job, which I'm not going to do my full financial advising commercial tonight because I don't have my script with the little disclaimer in front of me. So for legal reasons, if I don't have that in front of me, I'm afraid to do it. But you all know I'm a financial advisor, and if you don't want me to talk about it, do business with me. And if I get enough customers, I'll quit talking about it. Anyway, I'm really not though. So I think there's a couple things. I'm also a certified personality trainer with this company called Intrinsics. And one of the things I know out of that is, and this has been shown over and over and over, is that there are certain things about your intrinsic values and things that you hold dear. Like for me, adventure is like a value in and of itself. Physical courage is a value in and of itself. That's just my personality. That's how my brain's wired. My dad and mom never pushed me to do anything on a motorcycle because they didn't need to. Nobody was harder on me than me. And nobody wanted me to do a big jump more than I wanted myself to do it and overcome that fear. That's just that was part of my nature. But a lot of parents, like, sometimes they cannot accept that their kids might not be wired like they are.
Right.
York and Aspen, I don't know what they're going to turn out like as far as that kind of stuff. And if they're not little clones of me, that's okay. And right. I think the burnout from parents pushing. Here's the problem in our sport with motocross and mountain bikes and stuff like that. It's just way too dangerous to push your kid to do it if they don't want to. It's a big difference between your kid getting, legit hurt, breaking a bone or something because they were doing something that they wanted to do. And maybe you were even like, are you sure, buddy? Maybe versus you when being competitive and yelling and screaming at them to do something they're not ready to do. And then they get hurt. I mean, it's just too dangerous. It's not worth it.
So here's the other side of this, and this is kind of where I wanted to get with it, in that, like, not that I'm saying that my kid has this potential, but there are people out there that somehow in life make it to the point of being in the upper echelon of people that do it in the world. You know what I mean? Like, Every professional mountain biker, motocross racer, BMX racer was a 5-year-old kid at some point in time, riding their bike, having a good time with it.
Yep.
And I like these days, I feel like even in the 80s, like even in the 80s and early 90s, somebody who was just a natural born athlete that can do their thing could make it pro. Even if the regiment behind it wasn't there, like if you were just really good at it, you could make it far enough and had the right access to the right people. Anymore, there's like with the internet and everything else, so many more people have visibility and access to so much stuff that you have to be a God-given athlete with a work ethic like nobody else to make it to that upper echelon. Now,
Yeah.
So I had a friend of mine. I'm not going to name names, so I don't want to embarrass him. But one of my friends was a former pro BMX racer, and I mean, Olympic qualified training athlete. Flew out to the Olympic Training Center. Fastest, like NAG 1, fastest in the world number plate at like age 17, 18, right? Well, 19, he had the option of going full ride scholarship to a school that puts money into cycling for mountain bike or BMX. And he went to the school anyways, didn't really ride for him at all, and then never really rode again. And so now he's in his he's in his mid late 20s now, and probably only rides a bike maybe once every 2 to 3 months, and has no interest in riding. But with that said, is that like he did at one point in time and was qualified to race in the Olympics, and I think he honestly just either aged out or burned out on it. But he was, flying out to the training center. I mean, but like your kid doesn't get to realizing their potential without a level of push. And not that I think I'm looking at my kid and I'm seeing, UCI World Cup or anything in starry eyes, but like I also, if that's there, I don't want to take away from his ability to maybe see that as an opportunity either. You know what I mean? And like finding that thin line to walk between like, all right, man, let's go do some laps and let's start training, or like, hey, let's just slap high fives. Who cares what the numbers look like? You know what I mean?
Kyle, I think it's like you just have to see that desire in his eyes. And if you see that desire in his eyes, then you push him. And I'm not saying like if your kid's just wakes up every morning and everything he writes about to his teachers at school is he's going to be the next superstar of whatever it is, that you don't push him to excel as long as he's willing to commit that effort. But you also, if he doesn't want to, or if, I've heard stories of, parents like getting mad at their kid because they didn't want to go race on the weekend. They wanted to stay home and play with their friends in the neighborhood. Like you're not going to help anything by making them go do something that they're not desired to do. And if a kid's truly desiring to be that superstar, then you just
have to fight him for it.
You're not going to have to fight it.
Well,
they got the abilities, and so.
Well, you might. So like, we're talking about kids, but if they're getting, into their teenage years and they love it, and, if they express to you over and over, like, okay, I just want to focus on this one thing. I want to be the best at this one thing. I want to try to make it, whether it's the college level in some sports or the pro level or whatever it is. If they have expressed to you, yeah, I love this so much, I want to see how far I can take it, then I think, yeah, the parents, you might have to step in and push when it comes to them eating the right things, training correctly, all that, because kids will be kids and be lazy. And I'm actually okay with that kind of push, because the way you frame it is, I'm getting you out of bed, I'm making you go to this race because you told me that you want to try to do it for real. Now, you can frame that and say, but if you don't actually want to go to college and play, or you don't want to be a pro, that's okay. Just tell me and I'll back off and we'll just do it for fun. But, they got to understand, like, but if you say that's what you want, then I'm going to push you because that's the only way it's going to work.
Right.
But I don't think you should, I've seen parents push their kids, and obviously their kid either isn't old enough or doesn't, like, they're not trying to be a professional fill in the blank. It's dad wants them to be a professional fill in the blank.
Right.
And that's where you get, it's not about even burning the kid out on the sport. To me, that's small potatoes. I don't want to leave scars, emotional scars, and do anything to hurt the relationship as a kid's parent.
or get your kid hurt.
Right.
Or physically, right. So
right. Yeah,
I think there's some differences there, but
at the end of it, I don't think my kid has any chance. I mean, like as much as any other kid, at age 4 has a chance of becoming a, UCI World Cup athlete. But like, I just want, I would love nothing more than for us to still be 30 years from now enjoying riding bikes together. You know what I mean? Like that's the most important thing to me. Or, playing basketball or whatever it is that he decides he loves to do. I mean, right now it's bikes, and I'm hoping he sticks with it because I sure do enjoy it. And it's fun.
And I think that's the big key, as you said, there is you enjoy it too. And like, that's same thing for me and my brother and my dad and like Clinton and his dad and shoot you and your dad and boating. Like my dad goes and does that stuff with us. So like
it's fun.
My dad's, no offense to you guys, I call my dad before I call anybody else to ever go ride anything two wheels. Like,
oh, me too, for motorcycles. And even the mountain bike, he's got an e-bike. So anytime I'm going to Shepherd, I'm like, Dad, you want to go? And if he's not busy, he'll go. I don't mind because he can fly up the shuttle road on that stupid e-bike so fast.
So here's the thing though. And so here's the caveat to that is that like my poor dad did not do wheeled things at all as a child. So now he came from a family, a hardworking dad, and it did every, they had a bunch of brothers and sisters. And so they never had the opportunity to buy dirt bikes. You know what I mean? And so my dad did get me into dirt bikes and helped me, start a little lawn business so I could buy, my own first nice BMX bike. And like, he coached me through getting some of the things that I wanted, but my dad's thing was fishing. And so, I mean, he played soccer, did stuff like that too. So, I mean, we definitely did all the ball sports that he knew how to get me into. But like fishing, I enjoy fishing. And I'll go fishing as soon as somebody invites me to go fishing. If I have 4 hours free to myself, I am absolutely not going fishing. And it's not that I don't enjoy it. There's just like 10 other things that I would like rather do with my time, like on my own accord. And
but your dad did introduce you to some things that, I mean, that have stuck with you, and there's nothing wrong with that,
But that's what I feel bad about. I was like, my dad didn't fish anywhere near as much as I ride with Connor. He had 3 kids. He had to sell the boat when he had us. So like, he didn't have the opportunity to continue chasing his own hobby and drag me along for the ride as well, just because fishing is a little bit different access than biking is. You know what I mean? As far as like being able to do it with a child. So, but I do feel bad though that like my dad let me do anything I wanted to do really. And most of the stuff that I do currently, I didn't do until post high school. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't really a bike guy, a motorcycle guy. Rock climbing, wakeboard, like all the hobbies I have, with the exception of like maybe wakeboarding and some of like the water stuff, I didn't have access to or do anything with until I was in college anyway.
Yep.
But I do know my dad. I'm sure my dad wishes that I was mega into fishing so that we could do that together.
That's how my parents, both my mom and my dad, really, but especially my dad, I guess, before them, like. My family was a horse family. Like my parents, my sister, my cousins, my uncles and aunts all did this sport called team pinning, which is a pretty fast-paced team horse and cow sport. And like, I wanted nothing to do with horses at all. Still don't.
I don't blame you.
So my dad was like, and my dad rode motorcycles when he was younger, but he crushed his ankle real bad when he was 19. But then I got into that, and he was like, guess I'm doing motorcycles now. But it's funny. It's come full circle because my niece is absolutely 1,000% committed to the horse thing. So now we've got horses. We got 4 horses again. A new barn has been built, and she it's like 20 years ago all over again. Now we just ride dirt bikes when we can for fun. We don't really race anymore. I'd like to, but it's tough being a pastor when there's no more Saturday motocross races anymore. There just aren't. Well, there used to. I mean, that's all we did growing up. There were 2-day events. We'd go race Saturday, come home. It just doesn't happen anymore, but we still like to ride for fun. And we actually rode this past week with the Wizard of Oz himself and his son. And I see a lot of him and his son, doing the right way. What we were just talking about, Gary and Grayson Vernon from down in Arkansas came up and rode moto with us at our house, and then rode Shepherd the next day. And they're into a variety of stuff, but I think what I know my dad, to sum it up, I know what my dad has told other parents who have asked him, because they can see that my sisters and I have a really good relationship with our parents. And I know what he's told them because they've told me. He says, whatever it is they're into, go do it with them.
Yep.
Like, just be there and do it with them as much as you can. And I think that's, there's certain things I hope York and Aspen don't fall in love with. Like, I'm not
Horses.
a golf or baseball guy. I'm just not into golf or baseball, but if that's what they really want to do, I guess I'll have to get a club. It's a set of clubs.
I got a set you can borrow. I use them about once every 2 years.
See, that's the thing, though,
Maybe I'll
man.
brainwash them like my dad brainwashed me. I mean, he was like anti-golf growing up. Too slow, too boring, too slow. So.
Oh man. Well, you guys know me. Like I dip my toe in about everything I possibly can. So like I do have.
You do. You're out of control, Kyle.
I think about it all the time, and whether or not it is a problem or will become a problem. But I do it like I don't know what clicked with me or where it was in my life, but at some point in time I just straight up decided, like, there is just so much cool stuff to do out there. I want to do all of it as much as I can all the time. And whether it's throwing a frisbee or hitting a golf ball or playing volleyball, like I don't care. Like I want to do it all. And I don't know why, but that's just, I decided it a long time ago. And like I like people who are passionate about what they do. And as long as I can support somebody doing something that they're super stoked on, if they're super stoked on it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I feel about my kids too. It's like right now, I mean, Connor's obviously, I mean, he is absolutely head over heels with anything on two wheels, dirt bikes and or bicycles. And he just wants as much as he can get at all times. But if Cam, if my 7-month-old turns out to be like super into golf, man, if like he's into golf and that really just gets him excited, then I will swing a club 3 days a week. You know what I mean? I want to do things with people that are excited to do them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we've pretty well covered the parenting topic. I don't even know if that was actually a listener question.
It wasn't,
me. But that like
it should have been.
Like Phil and Stacy Goggin, they had stuff about getting into sport and like some things that you would change, and I just think they're pretty interesting.
Yeah, it applies.
Maybe it kind of ties in.
The good thing is, if we didn't answer your question this podcast, we now have a big list that we can come back to for weeks. I mean, some of these could be their own podcast by themselves.
Hey, Marky Mark asked a good one that I should probably go ahead and segue into. Coming back from injuries.
Wait. Before you answer that one, there's one that I can answer in like one sentence, because somebody asked that. Jeff Megavern asked, how does mountain bike tech relate to Mars rover tech? Mars rover tech, pound for pound, is cheaper than the new Specialized e-bikes.
Yeah.
All right.
They both use zip ties, I'll tell you that much.
Oh,
yeah, Ryan,
stuff.
let's talk about coming back from it. Well, this is relevant. Our good buddy Terry Rigdon broke his femur a couple weeks ago. He's doing well. He's been messaging me as far as I can tell.
Yeah, he's in good spirits and he's coming along pretty quick. I mean,
well, he's been hurt before. He kind of knows the deal. It's not his first rodeo.
He's tough, yeah.
He messaged me the other day. He's like, "Yeah, I just got done mowing the yard." Like, when I broke my femur after my surgery, the way they yanked all my muscles apart, I couldn't have sat on a riding lawnmower.
No, mine was all crying. Like, it was sore, like just to set that leg down on, like you sit in a chair and the pressure. God. Yeah, it was bad. He's doing good then,
we're just not that tough. That's all.
No, I think coming back from injuries, I think the first important thing is cycling in general is a very good, healthy recovery. It's crashing that is not. So, I know at least from leg injuries, if we talk about lower body stuff, from multiple of those, like cycling has been 100% the cure for my recovery and like getting range of motion and strength back without impact, without pain or anything like that. So I would say that's like super important. I know when I did my femur, and I jumped on the road bike like probably a month afterwards, and I went into PT, and they're like, it was like a Monday morning, and they're like, how was your weekend? And I'm like, I'm pretty sore. And they're like, oh. And they're like, what'd you do? And I'm like, I rode 60 miles on my road bike. And they were like, you what? Like, they got me in PT doing the stationary bike for 5 minutes, and here I went. but my physical therapist later said how good that was of me getting back moving as quickly as possible. So I think that's a big deal. Just trying to get active and just start moving, whether the injury's lower or upper body. But I also think it's giving it time to heal. Like stuff just takes time, and you have to let it do its course. You have to push it a little bit, but you can't go in and re-injure it. So I think, I don't know, that's kind of my tips. Like, don't put a time stamp on it. Just, you'll all of a sudden know, like we said, kind of at the top of this podcast. I mean, I'm starting to feel good, and I'm starting to think about, like, when can I get on a bike? And here, if you would ask me 2 weeks ago, I'd have been like, I don't know, 2-3 months. And now I'm starting to think like, man, it's really turning a corner and feeling good. Maybe end of this month, maybe 4 weeks from now.
Well, I think along those lines, pushing your doctor. So from my experience, these are all mistakes I made. That's where I'm coming from. But I didn't know what to ask. But I wish I had pushed my doctor that did my femur surgery. I wish I had pushed him more on the answer to the question of re-injuring it versus just because it hurts, because he didn't really recommend any therapy. He kind of was like, if it hurts, don't do it. And what I didn't realize till I moved to Houston and got a newer doctor that's a lot more up with the times. Now, my surgeon did a great job putting the bone straight in the surgery part, but he's kind of old, and I don't think he's used to operating on like old people that all they just want to do is walk around, be able to walk around their house again. I moved to Houston, my new doctor, he looks at my x-rays and he's just like, why do you have a crutch? Why are you using crutches? It's like, I would have had you walking like in 3 days, you'd have been walking with nothing. And like, I was so mad because I had so much muscle atrophy, and my bone growth was so slow because I wasn't doing all the things I could have. Because if I had known, I mean, it would have hurt, but I could have taken the pain. I was afraid of like re-injuring it somehow or messing it up, because my original doctor wouldn't give me a straight answer on that. So he had me afraid. He's like, just toe touch, barely toe touch weight.
Yep.
When really I could have basically done anything I could have withstood the pain for. Then the other mistake I made that I didn't realize was such a huge mistake is I took a lot of ibuprofen for a long time, and apparently that can slow bone growth.
Yep.
So, I mean, it took my femur about 1.5 years to completely fill in and completely heal. I mean, I was riding the dirt jump bike long before that, with it, about 60-70% filled in around it. And basically the x-rays, it kind of looked like if you took out a chunk of a tree, most of the tree's still there. It's pretty solid, but there's still, a piece missing out of it for a long time. I was doing dirt jumps and stuff with a chunk of bone missing.
Yeah, I think like there's discomfort, and then there's like severe like injuring pain, and they're two different things, and you have to understand that like the discomfort point is actually helping you heal. It's helping you get range of motion. It's helping and it's when you get that severe pain that literally puts you in tears. That's probably when you've pushed it too far. But if you don't push that fine line, it is going to take longer to recover. It's going to take longer.
Well, and the other thing, you might have to push. So there's a difference, like you said. I think there's the soreness pain, or like the muscle pain that because they're working. But I kept annoying my new doctor because I could feel tendons popping over the screws.
Yep.
And also there was like certain things. It was almost like something was like locking up. Like it wasn't like, oh, this is just sore and weak. It was like something mechanically is not functioning properly. And they kept looking at x-rays. couldn't find anything wrong. And I'm like, I'm telling you. So my bone still hadn't totally healed. It had been a year and a month. And my new doctor, I was like, he's like, let's get an MRI. I get the MRI. They're like, well, it doesn't really look like anything's really wrong, but in your knee, it's like your medial plica, which is apparently just a useless piece of tissue. Like your medial plica, Google it, is a little bit inflamed, maybe, just barely. So I'm like, okay, I think that's probably part of the problem. And so I kept bugging my doctor. And so I remember it was July 5th. I went in for surgery. Bone still hadn't fully healed, but they took out the 2 bottom screws, and he scoped my knee and shaved that plica. And I remember walking out of the surgery center, I'm, barely awake hardly because of the anesthesia, but I could immediately tell, like, okay, now my leg is moving properly. And then I went and hit like a sports therapy place instead of the old people therapy place.
Yeah.
And it was just night and day difference. But the cycling recovery, man, that's why Shepherd Mountain exists to this day, because that's what got me into mountain biking, was breaking my femur on a motorcycle.
Let's talk about the other bad side of injury recovery that, given our current lifestyles, is inevitable. Ryan, how much weight have you gained since you broke your elbow?
Are we good? Are we segueing into the dad life fitness thing?
No, I mean it's kind of part of it. It's harder to stay on top of it. That was for me, man. That was my biggest thing.
I probably, I don't know, maybe 5 pounds, but I mean, that's when you think about it as a percentage. I mean, I'm a smaller dude. I mean, I'm typically 150, 155, so I'm maybe 160, maybe 165 right now. I don't know. But I've definitely gained a little bit. And as a percentage of like, it's probably like somebody else gaining 20 pounds,
Shut up.
But
160 or 165 is what Eric Pearl told me. He couldn't believe how heavy he was and out of shape.
But I mean, yeah, it's tough.
Serious.
It's tough, I'm still honestly just trying to find like some motivation. Like I still can't do everything. So like, I just finding the motivation to go and kind of get after it now. I mean, I go to physical therapy and I work it really hard trying to get this arm strong, but I need to like segue now into like a full fitness routine and kind of get back to where I need to be. But that's tough. I mean, you go through stages with injury too. Like you go through that depressed kind of stage where like, man, I can't believe this happened to me. And rightfully so, especially when it's severe, like with what Terry's going through, or femurs or shoulders, collarbones. We've got some friends that have had that happen lately, and so it's just I think you go through that stage, and that's natural. Like, okay, like I think for the first 2 weeks, Kyle, you brought me food, and every night people were bringing food over. Man, I was just eating like a horse, and not gonna lie, drink a beer here and there, with no activity, right? Like I don't think I got my heart rate over 100 for 2 months, so it happens.
That was the worst for me, man. I did two injuries within 2 years of each other, and like my normal fighting weight was like 160, 165, and I probably put on 10 the first one, never dropped it. Then I put on 10 with the next one, and I was able to cut 5 back. And so now I float like 175, and I want to be 165, but it's hard to cut it back now, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I would say, like now I'm exiting what I would call stage 2, and stage 2 being kind of like, well, after like I was depressed, and then like the doctor's like, all right, start PT. Like then PT was all about just that arm, right? Like I'm not in there, cycling 60 miles, but, going 3 days a week at 6 a.m. And being there for an hour and a half. So then I get home, it's shower, get ready for work, do work. And then, after work, it's about family. So like, I don't have a lot of that time to go, pound out an hour on the stationary bike, or, and get stuff to where my heart rate's high to maybe, lose some weight and get in better cardiovascular fitness for cycling or whatever it is. Like I'm still kind of focused on just that arm now that it's getting strong. Like, okay, next stage in the plan is all right. Now get back on, kind of develop a different routine and be done with physical therapy, if that makes sense. So it's tough, it's dad life too. If you got kids, like it's hard to find that time, and I'm definitely going to tell my kids no because I got to go, burn an hour on the stationary bike. Like it's not me. I'm not saying that you're wrong for doing it either way. Like for me, like if my kids are doing nothing, yeah, I might go down on the stationary bike and ride for an hour. But if my kids are begging me for their attention, I'm going to give it to them. So
yeah, it just makes it that much harder for sure.
So I've got a practical tip that's pretty easy and that it does work. That's how I lost. I mean, COVID, I lost a little weight, but then I lost a couple pounds more the last 3 weeks, even though this last week has been bad and I've put some back on because I got off the wagon. But something that like immediately helped me feel better and lose weight. I wasn't even doing it to lose weight or anything, but Hannah and I were looking at our credit card bill one day. And it was
that'll make you sweat.
Holy, I was just like, what have we been doing? And we're like, okay, we need to eat the food that we buy at the grocery store that's in the house. Like no more spending money eating out breakfast, lunch, or dinner at work. No fast food. Either if you have a gift card, that's okay. If the bank's buying lunch that day, that's whatever. But it was truly about saving money. It was just like, let's see how long we can go without spending any money on food that we didn't buy at the grocery store. And we did in 3 weeks doing that, like not eating. That eliminates not all of it because I had some gift cards and stuff, but a lot of fast food, a lot of junk, a lot of sugary, whatever. And I lost a couple pounds doing that without really changing anything else. I'm bummed because going down to Shepherd twice a week. The good thing about Shepherd is if I can just make it there and do one lap in the morning without a shuttle, it doesn't matter which way I go. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna get a good workout in because just getting to the top of the hill, no matter which way you go, is hard. Or it's decently hard, I guess. So just between that and not eating out, trying to save money, like instantly healthier, felt better, kind of fell off the wagon this last week, but I'm going to get back on it. Got the pump track race coming, so that helps having a goal. Hannah's going to run a 3-mile race at St. Joe at the Minor Tough weekend.
Oh, nice.
Trail run. So I think that might be the thing is just put something on the calendar, some kind of event, competition. You don't have to train to win necessarily, but for me and my personality, like I have to have something on the calendar,
a goal,
to motivate me.
I agree.
And now now it's like, oh, sweet. Finally, I'm going to get to do a race at Shepherd Mountain because I missed the BME with COVID. But I'm looking at it. I'm like, gosh, dang it. I'm going to have to pedal as much on those stages as I did at Chubb. So I guess I've got a new goal to put on the calendar. I guess I'm going to have to ride my dirt jump bike on the streets of Potosi to get my training in. Single speed sprints up the hills.
I haven't had a race goal in 2 years, 3 years now, 2 years. I haven't had like an actual race, like a race that I'm actually interested in, like competing in. Like I do, those cross country races every year that I just don't care about because I do it on a single speed. But the pump track race I'm interested in. But like kind of to your point too, Clinton, about the diet, my easiest thing. So like I'm a sugar guy, so I like sugar. And then I work in my car all day. So typically, like what do you have access to eating if you're just going to eat on the fly is fast food or stuff like that. And I'm really good about fast food. I don't eat a lot of fast food in the car. Like less than 3 days a month, I've got fast food in the car. Most of the time I can do something inside. But my thing is if I can I'll do it for a month. And I usually do it biannually is I'll do no sugar, no fried anything. So wherever you're going to eat at, whatever you're going to eat whatever you want in any quantity that you want. Just it can't be fried and it can't have sugar in it. And that for me, typically, just that very simple thing. So that's and I say that I don't mean like no sugar, like so natural sugars. I still eat apples and oranges and stuff like that, but no juice, no soda, no ice cream, no candy, no French fries, no chicken fingers, none of that. You know what I mean? Just nothing. And so I find that just cutting those two like simple things out of my diet is usually worth about 5 pounds in a 30-day window.
Yeah. All right, boys, we're gonna have to wrap it up because my computer's about to die and I don't have the charger. But good podcast. Listen, if you wrote a listener question and we didn't answer it, just keep listening because we're gonna keep coming back to a lot of these over the next couple weeks. Because some of them are pretty good.
Good stuff. Yeah, we'll get back in next week or so, do another and cover some of these questions. It was good.
All right.
Good podcast.
Yep. Thanks for jumping on, boys. Hopefully our first set of recording saved. I'm pretty sure it did because I've done this before. But if not, I'll text you with the bad news. But the second session was 41 minutes. So we got like 2 podcasts worth in today.
I'd say you might have to split it up anyways.
Nah, we'll make it one long one. All right. Later, boys.
Later,
Cheers.
guys.